Dhamma Jimden de Shin Sheba Dajamba Yana Bazo Besan Ribada Shamson Demba Devare Sheba Jiden Jamba Jubandu Kalo Jeba Lana Meba Lada Menam Jedamba Sanje Jimden Benjava Shaja Tubana Chazelo Jedo Jamsuch Dhamma Jimden de Shin Sheba Dajamba Yana Bazo Besan Ribada Shamson Demba Devare Sheba Jiden Jamba Jubandu Kalo Jeba Lana Meba Lada Menam Jedo Sanje Jumden de Benjava Shaja Tubana Chazelo Jedo Jamsuch Dhamma Jumden de Shin Sheba Dajamba Yana Zobe Sanje Ribada Shamson Devare Banji Denchamba Jibundu Kalo Juvalana Sada Menam Jedamba Sanji Jumden de Benjava Shaja Chazelo Jedo Jazu Sheo Kanze Banje Zowa Jadam Sajende Na Gomba Jembrune Lane Jiden de Nachojas Teze Keba Jola Chazelo Namda Gomba Choku Susan Ishi Jazu Sejo Rumoda Taba Jiden Sumna Gomba Choni Jola Chazelo Senjo Demba Chimenda Sendo Dawa Jola Chazelo Jere Chola Seba Sumai Nyame Jenjen Jola Chazelo Gombo to Jeje Demba Tamje Jimeta Sonomin Denja Zushin de Jinshala Chazelo Tabe de Jatra Giving as one letter Jibu to the Machojo by Shinju Jola Chazelo Trene Treva Lamya Labatala Rabdune Shingetam by Yeden Gindian Lanya Chazelo de Wajin Major Jinga Person Rangis Then the Sanjay Demba Yakamara you must have sugar the melon of that. The Jejano de Drada Solom Diatum Jesse Yakobatum change that. God and other Shiva loved the Sibir Son and Jovan show.
To the teacher, the blessed one, Almighty, full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened, perfecting knowledge and good conduct, Sukata and all the world, supreme guide of age to became, teacher of us and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, glorious conqueror, subdue upon the Shakya planet, I prostrate my offerings and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one body, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfecting knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, know of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, subdue upon the Shakya land, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfecting knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, know of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, subdue upon the Shakya planet, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you placed out seven strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then I prostrate. With pure bodies formed supremely pure, wisdom motion like golden mountain, fame that blazes in the three worlds, winner of the best, to you I prostrate. With the supreme silence, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, the three worlds I know. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior and great compassion, the teacher and all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you the one grown to dustness I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower others, the one path, such a divine pure reality, to the Dhamma which pacifies and prostrates. Those who are liberated, who wish to show the path to liberation, the holy faith qualified for the realization, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you to the sublime community and the virtue I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star and mirage, a flame of land, the illusion of drop of dew or bubble, the dream, a flash of light in a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through these merits, the sentient beings attain and hold all sin, subdue the four foes, and be delivered from motion of suffering, of aging, sickness, and death.
Sanje Shano Soje Shano La Chanju Bado Nande Jazu Shen, Nage Jazu Jebe Dola Penji, Sanje Juba Show, Sanje Shano Soje Shano, Chanju Bado Nande Jazu Shen, Nage Jazu Jebe Dola Penji, Sanje Juba Show, Sanje Shano Soje Shano La Chanju Bado Nage Jazu Jebe Dola Penji, Sanje Juba Show, Sanje Shano Soje Shano, Chanju Bado Nande Jazu Jebe Dola Penji, Sanje Juba Show.
They go for refuge and enlightenment to the Buddha, Lama, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. They go for refuge and enlightenment to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge and enlightenment to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Gede Pumanda Yana, Jeda Jiva Jendo Jiva, Gede Pumbanda Neja, Pumbe Senior Bebe, Dani Yuba Mayana, Dagi Yuba Kala, Dada Dagi Shivish, Manzema, Zemeja, Manzema, Zemeka, Ten Yuba Mayana, Manzema, Zemepa, Kangaton, not the Shireni Dana, Dada Dagi Yazana, Yavali Bakaji, the Zemin Javase, Leather you must have better, leather you want to the children, German, don't money. Dago Shijan, Dami Shijan, Sanjan of Jada, Dame Shijan. Jabra Shawan Dobo, the Simji Juan Dobo, Majapa, Chunin and the song. Tamji Yanda, 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 Mimi, Yanda, Tennis, and Jijan. Shene Sheme Shiva, Jovan, Jamajuba, Nomdo, Tennis, Kala, the Kanjuma, Tennis, Rishit, Tennis, Shema, Jichim. Sanje Jeden Vanavia, Damba de Gubadia, the Jimania Tademia, Chabamania, to Sanje, Yendano Jezebano, Razanji, Genia, Dambamina, Dada Chia, Dama Shesha, the Chubachoye, Bao, Kangi, the Jen, the Vajumanga, Shabamba, Bao, Tade, the Medjimia, Giovanni, Jena, Mao, the Sanje Manager, Tabata, Chance. I think we are on page number 194 or 105, 4, right? So here there's so this is stated by the clear words when it says, since the statements such as whatever sounds there are in the world, they are all unreal and nothing exists, are found. The intention is to express the negations without implications. So the meaning of unreality here, the absence of intrinsic existence. So this I have to. So yeah, so whatever sounds there are in the world, jidendana chinye dayubaks, tamje mumechian bebesh chawalaso, chawalaso banjuan, mebrakabu juban. So I think so whatever sounds there are in the world means the things that exist in the world. They are all unreal. They don't really exist by their own essence, and so non-existing by their own side are what we found through or by negating the objectivity with conventional realities. So once the conventional reality negated objectively existence, and then you find things do exist relatively, but each of the things, they don't exist by their own, own essence, or they do not exist independently, right? So intention is to express the negation. So here, some might think that, so in the Prasangic school, in negating the independent nature or intrinsic natures, so some might think this is the kind of annihilating the existing, or annihilating the conventional reality. So it's totally negating anything that exists. So here this is, so this objective, negating objectivity or intrinsic nature in a conventional reality is to express the negations without implications. So that is the ultimate fact. So things do not exist by their own essence. So there is no further suggestions. This is just, so non-affirmative negations or non-implicative negations. So, so the meaning of the unreality here, absence of intrinsic. So therefore, unreal means is unreal in the sense the objectively existing, right? So it's not unreal that they do not exist. It's not that unreal does not mean it's not exist at all. So yeah, so this is like, lie means because it's lying to you, you find it's lie, therefore it is exist because it has a function to deceive you, right? So the lie does not mean not exist. Unreal does not mean it's not exist. So, and what we negating in order for, defining things unreal is the, the intrinsic nature. Here is the absence of intrinsic existence. Unreality, meaning of unreality here is the absence of intrinsic existence. So unreality does not mean not exist at all, right? So this was very kind of, one of the very difficult point for the lower school of thoughts to understand what Prasangic schools, in the Prasangic schools, the meaning or interpretations of the unreality. So most of them, they interpret that is not exist. It's unreal means it's not exist. So Prasangic schools, unreal for this exist, right? It exists, but it's not exist by their own essence. There is no objectivities. Also, the commentary says that having stated the four theses, now establish this through the reasoning, I will explain later on, using the negation of arising from four extreme as the reason. Things are spoken of as being free from intrinsic arising. Furthermore, at the end of negations, arising from four extreme. So this whole not arising, things do not arise by itself, from others, both. Things do not arise from no cause. That very, the statement, I think, that the understanding of not arising from itself is non-affirmative negations or non-implicative negations, right? So I think this is the very important, because why this is in the Buddhist, many of the Tantrayana practitioners, some of the practitioners in the Tantrayana practitioners, so through their own experience, meditations, deity yogas, so many masters, they think emptiness is not just non-implicative negations. Emptiness is understanding the ultimate objectivities. So because from the absence, and then the kind of, for example, here in the Vaibhashika school, we're pretty much same there, Vaibhashika school and the Sodhantika school. Emptiness, the wisdom they're realizing emptiness, it understand affirmative things. So like, you're looking at the table and looking at the table, explicitly knowing the table is empty, implicit understand no cup, no plate, no spoon, right? So the what really kind of, reveals that, right? What is the direct object for knowing there is no plate is eye consciousness that directly, explicitly, the perceiving the empty table, right? So there must be a table that is affirmative. So by looking at it and you understand this table is empty, therefore there's no plate, no spoon. So Vaibhashika school, Sodhantika school, their understanding emptiness is like that. So mindfulness, the body, focusing on the body and finding there is no independent I. So the mind which is realizing no independent I, no permanent I, is still, abided on the body. So there's a kind of reference there. So by focusing on the body and understanding, focusing on the body means understanding the impermanence of the body and the unattractive substance. But those analyzing or contemplating on that, indirectly you understand there is no such Atma that's permanent and independent, right? So in the Tantrayana practitioners, many of the Tantrayana practitioners, they also think that, deity yoga, meditating the emptiness, is kind of, is the drawing your mind into the settled energy, focusing on settled energy and forgetting all conventional realities. That which is still focusing on, there's some kind of mark or the sign that you just imposes within the body, right? For example, in Tantrayana, this is first you have to contemplate impermanence, the conditional suffering, and then the permanent empty or permanent I, and then create some kind of create or project the mark, the white dot in the center of the body, and just staring at it
and they try to draw all the elements, right? So eye consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness. So all the sensory perceptions kind of, make them inactive. And then total focus on that, the white dot in the center of the body. And then they think, so the remaining on that, the white dot, and focusing on that, and then drawing all the grosser level consciousness or dissolving them, right? So they think this is the meditating the emptiness. So the realization emptiness is directly perceiving that the white dot that you have projected, right? So this is like similar, like Sotantika school or Vavashika school, looking at the empty table, indirectly understand no cup, like that. So here Lama Tsongkaphas precisely mentioning this emptiness is not a implicative negation. Is emptiness is just the emptiness means is non-affirmative negation. There is no further suggestions. There's no revealing or any affirmative phenomena. So just not arising by itself means, right? Which one is not arising? There is no, that the very wisdom that understand no arising by itself is not suggesting there is a something that arises but not arising from itself. It's not right like that. So it just simply says this thing is not arising by itself. Sprout is not arising by itself. Is so non-affirmative negations. So in this book, the terms they use, the non-implicative or implicative negations. And Jerry Organ's books, affirmative negation, non-affirmative negations. So this, so negating four extreme possibilities, four extremes are non-affirmative negations. So Clairvoyance states, thus established, established that there is no arising. It is not the case. Therefore, the Chandrakirti does not wish to establish that things are devoid of intrinsic existence. The statement in the Clairvoyance that the inference have in their effect only the negation of the what others purpose refer to the fact that the propositions are there only to refute intrinsic existence adhered to by the others. The sense here is that apart from this, they do not establish anything else. The statement does not, however, reject the establishment of that simple negations. Likewise, there is the following statements. So, which means, you can find in the right after there's examples. For example, the Brahmins do not drink alcohol. Means, so this sentence, right, is not suggesting that Brahman is tall, Brahman is short, or Brahman is good person or bad person, or Brahman himself is not suggesting. It's simply, negating they drinks alcohol, right? And there is no further suggestions they may drink milk or water, right? So not arising from itself is like the Brahman do not drink alcohols. Right? So this is pretty much kind of telling to the Tantrayana practitioners who believes the emptiness is non-affirmative negation. So rather, this is if you are meditating on, focusing on the affirmative phenomena at the same time realizing no intrinsic I is more like the kind of, seeing the conventional reality, illusion-like phenomena. It is not directly perceiving the emptiness, right? So Tantrayana practitioners practice without losing focusing on the emptiness. They continuously fantasize and creating the mandalas and the surrounding all the mandalas and the deities and then the walls and the decorations and everything they just create by the thought. And the part of the mind is never separate from the absence of intrinsic existence. Right? So these are what this means is these meditations, mind and meditating on creating the mandala and visualizing the deities is not direct realization of emptiness. It is more like knowing the conventional realities. They exist like illusion-like phenomena. Right? As for us, we do not establish this to be either non-existing or the existing. Rather, we refute what others imputed to be existence. So this was Chandrakirti saying that in the Prasangic school, we do not wish to establish this to be either non-existing or the existing. We are not trying to establish the sprout existing or not existing. So rather here, we're simply negating the arising by itself, arising from others, arising from both, arising from without cause. This is what we are negating. We are not negating the sprout itself is existing or not existing. So refute other imputed to be existing and non-existence. So this is because our wish to clear away the two extreme, establish the path of the middle ways. So that's the the point in the middle way path. So middle way path means middle way is negating true extreme. Negating true extreme. Negating true extreme means when you negate the intrinsic nature of the phenomena, still not really damaging on the conventional realities. So accepting the conventional reality is existing, at the same time, the conventional reality do not exist by their own essence. Like, mirror image. Like mirror image is not exist by itself, but it is the real, it's a reality in the context of the face and the mirror. So like a shadow is existing in the context of the ground and your body when with the sunlight, right? But the shadow do not exist by itself, right? It has no intrinsic quality. So within the shadow, if the intrinsic quality in the shadow, like a ground and the person, like the ground and the person is, the independent. So the person can leave the ground and go to another place, right? So, but shadow and your body is not like apple and orange. So it is existing, but shadow did not come to your body, right? So shadow is not come from your body or somewhere else. So it is the real in the context of the ground, the body, and the sunlight. So in that three factors, shadow is real, right? So in the Prasangika school, so we accept that kind of reality. So therefore, we are not negating the existing of the phenomena. But what we are negating is the intrinsic quality of the phenomena. So yeah, what other imputed to be existing, non-existing. So these two extreme we are negating. So meaning of this statement too is that one merely eliminates the true extreme of existence and non-existent as adhered to by the others. And apart from this, nothing else is to be established. Other than that, Prasangika school is not trying to establish or constitute anything, simply negating the objectivity, intrinsic quality, and accepting how conventional reality, right, exists in the sense of relativities, right? So it is not the case, however, that simple negations of the two extremes is not being established, for it states that wish to clear away the two extreme and establish the path of the middle way. If things are not established as devoid of intrinsic existence, then since there is no third possibilities, this would entail that things have intrinsic existence. So by negating, for example, a base, so with the sprout, base with the sprout, by negating not arising by itself, not arising from other, not arising from both, not arising from no cause. So this is kind of, how you negate the objectivities, intrinsic qualities. So if this is not, if this kind of negating four extreme is not establishing absence of intrinsic existence, which means sprout has some quality of intrinsic nature, right? So this is the clearly stated in the averting the objections for I think this is Nagarjuna. For if what is devoid of intrinsic natures negate the absence of intrinsic natures, then with the reversal of the absence of intrinsic existence, things will have intrinsic existence. So not existing from its own essence, not existing in and of itself, is not negating the existence. So if things do not existing by their own essence, if that negates the nature, so then like two negative become the positive, right? So things are not intrinsically existing is negating, the absence of intrinsic existence. Then things comes back in the nature of the intrinsic reality. So there is no, it's not like, So it's like, this is two options, two possibilities. Either things exist from their own essence, or things do not exist by their own essence. And there is no third possibilities, right? So things do exist by their own essence, or things do not exist by their own essence, right? As for the reason why, although one accepts the thesis that and proofs such as these, one does not become the Sautrantika middle way. I have explained this extensively elsewhere, so I will not elaborate further here. How then are the two forms of negations defined? So now, Lama Tsongkapha want to kind of, make the explicit kind of, explanations or defining what is the negation. So in general, the negation is cognized by the mind on the basis of explicit elimination of the relevant object of negations. So what is the negations? What is the affirmative? What is the negative, or the affirmative? So negative means when things that is cognized by the mind, right, and by having cognized the things, explicitly eliminating the relevant object of negations. So then that is the negative phenomena, like not arising by itself, or the Brahman do not drink wine, right? So like the fat men that the kind of the fat men do not eat in the daytimes, right? So which means there's a further suggestion by negating it. So I think this is important because many of them misunderstood in the path of the Tantrayana practitioners, and also some of the Sautrantika school, Vibhashika school. They think they realize emptiness, but their very wisdom that realizing emptiness is still abiding in objectivities, right? Intrinsic body. So in general, the negations cognized by the mind on the basis of the explicit eliminations of the relevant object of negations, so the determinations of something as not being that which is not itself. So negation does not mean annihilating here, annihilating. So the vast not being a non-vast is not in itself negations. On the other hand, we find terms like the ultimate nature and ultimate truth. The word, so negative negations, I think, negations, negation means when the mind cognizes that thing, that meaning, or that, and then it's explicitly negating, eliminating the relevant negation element. It's not just, so negations, not necessarily any kind of, for example, emptiness, ultimate truth, thusness. So the word itself is not negating anything. It's thusness, ultimate truths, right? This is unlike Brahman don't drink the alcohol, or this is not like the sprout is not arising by itself. The ultimate truths is this from the what's that? from the word itself, there is no explicit elimination of the negation element. But when the mind that understands the ultimate truth, and then, yes, there is explicitly negating the relevant negation element. Anyway, yeah. So they hear the negations, the ultimate truths, which does not explicitly negate any opposite on the linguistic level. Yet when their referent appear to the mind, so they do so in the aspect of eliminating conceptual elaborations. Such terms are therefore the terms of negations. Negation is of two kind. So negation has two kind. Of the two, none say implicative negations. Non-implicative negations. So negation and no suggestions. Right? So do not imply or affirm any other facts following the explicit elimination of its object of negation. For example, when asked, are Brahmin allowed to drink alcohol? The response, they do not drink alcohol. So is simple rejection of the drinking alcohol. The statement does not affirm in any way that they do not or do not drink other beverages. Yeah. So conversely, the implicative negations implies implicated negation implies or affirm other facts following the mind eliminating its object of negations. For example, when wishing to demonstrate that one of the two individuals belongs to the commoner caste, right? Commoner's caste. If one utter the statement, he is not the Brahman, this does not merely negate the person being a Brahmin, while the negative statement, it is also affirmed that person belong to a caste other than that of the Brahmins, namely, so it's implying that it was a commoner's caste, right? Mm-hmm. Commoner's caste. So, for example, if you have doubt, right? You are convinced that Bamki is Japanese or the Korean. So you are convinced he may be Korean or the Japanese. And then you ask, is he Japanese? And says, no, that implies he is definitely Korean. So this kind of, implicative negations. Not Japanese means, yes, he is Korean, right? So implicative negations. So implicative negations, the relatively is implying. So generally, if someone say he is not Japanese, that does not imply he is Korean, not necessary, right? So if you are sure that maybe he is this and that, and by negating one is implying the kind of directly he is the the Korean or Tibetan or whatever, suggest there is affirmative suggestions.
The implicative is the same as affirmative.
Implicative means by negating something, it implies.
So it's different from affirmative.
Yes, this is implicative is affirmative negation. It's the same. So as I said, the Jeffrey Hawkins, the book, the Lama Tsongkapha's Essence of Eloquence. So he mostly used affirmative negations. In this book, there's an implicative negation or non-implicative negation. negations. So, yeah, so it's kind of, imply means that the sound or the word, or by negating something, that implies means right after it, by negating that, and then it proves something else. So, like, if you have a doubt, this person, maybe he's ordinary people or Brahmins. So you want to determine. So ask someone, is he Brahmin? And they says he's not a Brahmin. So now this is the questionable, because that is a suggesting he is the common people, ordinary people, right? And so, yes, it suggests that he is the common people. So does it implying it? So still it's arguable. It's implying. By negating the Brahman, not necessarily imply that. So in this particular case, yes, by negating Brahman, that he's suggesting. So I think Jeremy Hoffman translations, I find it's more suitable here. Affirmative negations, non-affirmative negations, is not talking about implicative or non-implicatives, because some of the negations is not implying, it's just relatively suggesting, right?
Neither negation is bad per se. Like obviously the non-affirmative negation is the proper way to understand emptiness.
Yeah.
But the affirmative negation, that's the Tsongkapha is not saying that that's bad per se, right? Like that's a wrong type of logic relatively.
Yeah, it's kind of mistaken in the sense that the realization emptiness means it has to be directly focused on the absence of intrinsic existence. So once the mind of wisdom that directly perceiving the emptiness, there is no other conventional reality in the face of that wisdom. So because the wisdom, when the wisdom is focused on emptiness, it's not seeing anything other. Because it's totally focused on negation, right? So now, so therefore, realization emptiness means so mind which is directly and kind of the focusing on emptiness only is the realization emptiness. So others, for example, deity yoga's practice is not direct realizing emptiness. It is more like a kind of engaging in the conventional reality. That conventional reality is underpinned with realization emptiness. It's not realization emptiness itself is doing. So the conventional perceptions underpinned with realization emptiness and the realization emptiness itself, right? So, and why Lama Tsongkapha bring this? Because some of the masters, so they think they have they understood the Buddha Shakyamuni's teaching. So then they go and by reading, for example, the Heart Sutras, no tongue, no nose, no ear, so things that, so Buddha says no tongue, no nose, no eye. So this is, this is the just simply negating tongue itself and negating nose itself. So no nose, no tongue literally means, right? And in reality, there is no nose, there is no tongue, right? the nose, the tongue, and color and taste all exist in misconceptions. So because of not knowing the exact meaning of negations, so they think the emptiness is, realization emptiness has found something affirmative, right? So it's kind of going to very, very wrong direction, because which means if you think that Heart Sutra and Nagarjuna's text, all there is no arising, there's no coming, and there's no going. Literally, they take that. So in the reality, there is no coming and no going, no arising, no tongue, no nose, no. So yeah. So I think better to say no body. So this is going very, very wrong directions. This is why Lama Tsongkapha precisely kind of explaining what is the negations, what is the non-affirmative negations, right? Yeah, there's a Chonamba in the Tibetan, so great master, especially Kala Chakra. That he's very kind of renowned, the great masters in the Tibet, particularly with Kala Chakra practitioners. So in his writing, there is always this conventional reality means conventional reality means the real true misconceptions. So which means real true misconception means the rabbit horn is real true, the wrong perceiving rabbit horn is existing. Right. So which explicitly means there is no rabbit horn at all. Right. So in the reality, they also say that tongue, nose, taste, these do not exist. In the reality, it exists in the misconception. So why? So because these are Buddha, when he mentioned no nose, no tongue, that means because this negation is everything that negating is not negating objectivity and accepting the conventional reality. They're just literally, they don't exist. So it's the kind of hold this lead by the misunderstanding or misinterpretation of the negation. So Chandrakirti mentioned many times, we are not trying to establish anything. We are not trying to empty anything. We are simply negating that is superimpositional. Things that not exist at all, right, from the beginning. And that is, so arising by itself, arising from others, arising with no cause, and, existing, the intrinsically are the target that we are negating. We are not negating, right, sprout, we are not negating nose or tongue or as form or anything. So if once you if you don't understand properly the actual the definition of the negations and actual definition of negations, then you may go have wrong understanding or wrong perception. So emptiness, the total absence of intrinsic, when the mind is focusing, convincing with absence of intrinsic existence, this particular mind is only seeing absence. there is no object at all other than absence itself. Right? So here another way of saying is the wisdom realizing emptiness, the perceiving emptiness, and conventional perceptions, which is underpinned with the wisdom realizing emptiness. Two things: wisdom itself and wisdom that associated with the other conventional perceptions. Right? So Tantrayana practice, all the yoga kinds of Tantrayana daily yoga practice are the conventional perceptions which is underpinned with wisdom realizing emptiness. Right? Yeah, Lama Tsongkapha, in the essence of eloquence, from the beginning, he mentioned that. So he was referring to those great masters like Chanamba and other school of thoughts. So he was referring them like great knowledgeable and a great practitioners. There are many of them who have still not found this exact meaning of absence of intrinsic existence. So I have found these realizations with the, from the blessing of the Manjushri. So from the beginning, he said that this is what I found. So my finding is, right, this is the exact Prasanga school point of views. Although these great masters, the great knowledgeable people, masters, and great practitioners, so although they have some gain, highly realizations, and so much, knowledge, but they're still kind of struggling in the understanding of this absolute intrinsic existence. So he got this jackpot from the Manjushri. 777. So yeah, this is very, very kind of important in the particularly in the Prasanga school. So there are three ways such other facts may be implied by the negative statement: through direct implications, indirect implications, and the contextual implications. Yeah. So this is what they say. It's a little bit different from the implication. Right? So there are the kaptubji, and in Tibetan we say kaptubji pambas. Kaptub means contextual implications. It's not necessarily by negating that it's implying, but in the context of you are sure about two, but one has negated, therefore you've found others, right? So yeah, and the Japanese affirmative negations. Affirmative negations means by negating something is suggesting affirmative phenomena, right? So affirmative negations. To direct implications, indirect implications, and contextual implications. The first is like statement no self exists. So this is, I don't know, and in Tibetan we say, so da meba ye means the existing of the emptiness, the concept that understand emptiness is existing. So the emptiness is not just emptiness. Emptiness is existing, which means that very subject is the conventional perception, because the existing combined with the emptiness in existing means is not really directly focused on the emptiness. It's just trying to find the name. So giving a label. So anything that is giving a label is conventional reality, conventional perspective. So so knowing the emptiness is existence, whereby the elimination of object of negations, and affirmations of other facts are both affected with the single declarations. So saying emptiness is exist, which means negating intrinsic and giving a name on that absence. Yes, it is exist, right? So the second is like statement. What's that? Stout, right? Stout Dharmadhatu does not eat during the day. So this is the actual implications. Is implying. So he's stout and he's not eating in the daytime. So it's implying that he must be eating in the nighttime. Where another fact is implied indirectly. So that these two respectively give specific example of the implying another fact, directly or indirectly. So in an example where the fact is implied both directly and indirectly is the statement Dhammadhatu, who does not eat during the day and he is not skinny, right? So this suggesting is implying and is directly suggesting, right? Because he's not skinny, he is fat, and he must be eating at nighttime, during the night. The third type is like the statement, he is not Brahman. So when stated in the context where it has not yet been determined whether the person is of the royal or the Brahman caste, and here the statements, what caste he is not explicitly made. A text cited in the explanation of the commentary on the Lamp of the Wisdom says, so which means if you're sure he must be royal or the Brahmins, knowing he is not a Brahman, that relatively is suggesting he is the royal family, right? So this is not implying, is because it's not implied by the directly by the negating as Brahman. So if by negating Brahman is directly implying or suggesting he is the royal, then everyone who is not a Brahman has to be royal, right? So I think this whole why this detail kind of is so it's like it always says the Buddha the path to liberations has to be right knowledge. If there are any mistake and wrong perceptions, this cannot be turned into the path to liberation and enlightenment. So while you are at the beginning of the path or middle of the path, so you always make sure that your perceptions are right, not mistaken.
So he's more so saying, clarifying right understanding and logic.
Yeah, so I think the way to follow the Buddha's teaching is finding the right way, right path. It's not like faithfully or loyalty. It's not really kind of talking about the loyalty of the faithful. It's like rather it's the right way, right? Sometimes I said maybe Tibetan cultures may not suitable in Prasangic school because they so they're always like, are you following the logic or relying on the person? So maybe there are more cultures that likely to rely on the person rather than the logic, right? So Nalenda's masters, even the Buddha and logic, reason, and they rely on the reason, right? So from the reason they seize the Buddha, right? So by relying on the Buddha, it's not necessary you have to find the reason. So I think maybe once again I remind that right sealing sutras, Buddha kind of stated, Buddha mentioned that in the Valjapik, whoever sees the dependent risings, means dependent risings, sees the Dharma. Who sees the Dharma, sees the Buddha, right? Buddha did not say, whoever have faith in me will see the Dharma and see the dependent rising. So rather, who sees the dependent rising, sees the Dharma, who sees the Dharma, who sees me. Right? So I remember one time in the Sierra Monastery, His Holiness was giving a teaching on the essence of eloquence. So before he started teaching, he said, so I will explain best of my knowledge. If you find mistake or you have liberations to reject me. And he also said the example in the Tibet, there's one Mongolian geshe. So when he attend his guru's teaching, so when the guru says use the wrong logic, he said, "Oh, that's not right." So, and the guru says the right kind of sometimes more, how to say, explain very clear. He says, "Oh, he's Buddha, he's Buddha." So if wrong explanation, oh no, that's not it. So he was very, So His Holiness says you have to do like that, the Geshe. So if I explain very clear and that convincing to you, you say, oh, that's a Buddha, that's Buddha. So Lamb of the Wisdom says, so negations that reveals by implications. So negation that reveals by implication, that which affirm by the means of the one word. Stout Dhammadhatu, do not eat in the daytime. And and he is not skinny, means that reveals the implication that affirm by means of one word. And what which does not, rather, which does both. Yeah, affirm, the first is like Dhammadhatu, start Dhammadhatu, do not eat in daytime. The second, both, means Dhammadhatu, start Dhammadhatu, do not in the daytime, he's not skinny. Right? So the both. But does not express the word itself. So does not express the word itself means, so when you are sure that particular individual, royal or the Brahman, by negating one and then relatively suggesting the others. These are the implicative negations. Other are the different. Other means other negations is non-affirmative negations. That is the different, has no suggesting any affirmative phenomena. Some assert that when a negation term is combined with the terms that is affirmative, it is not a non-implicative negations. This is incorrect. Just because the term Brahman is affirmative does not preclude the fact that statements Brahman does not drink alcohols represent the simple elimination of the object of negations. So I think this, the summary master, more likely in Tibet. So some masters. So affirmative negations, like Vabhashika school, their understanding of emptiness of the person by directly perceiving the body, they indirectly understand emptiness. So that they call it has affirmative negations. It has by emptying the self-sufficient I and suggesting, yes, therefore this body is empty of the self-sufficient I, right? So there's some of the Tibetan masters, they kind of assert. So so if the negations combine with affirmative base, which means affirmative negation. So the Lama Tsongkapha says, no, this is not necessary because the Brahman is affirmative. Brahman does not drink alcohol. Together is non-affirmative negation. Right? So it's still the negations combined with affirmative. Right? Like table is not permanent. So the table is affirmative and negating is permanent, not permanent. So this is like, precluding the fact that statement Brahman does not drink alcohol represents simple elimination of its object of negations. This is analogous to the fact that just because sound itself is evident fact does not preclude sound's impermanence being concealed fact. So this is jumping a little bit the others. Like for example, in the text, it always says so noble object can be divided into three. Noble object. One is obvious object. One is hidden object or concealed object. So concealed object, hidden object is the way you reveal that is through the logic. So you cannot perceive through the sensory perceptions, like a color, smell, taste, texture. These are the obvious objects. You don't need any inferential, right? So there's without inference, you can directly see the color, smell, and taste and tactilities. So other than that, like, the impermanence of the color, impermanence of the taste. So these are kind of, relying on reasonings to reveal that fact. So that is the obvious object and hidden object of the concealed object. And then the third is extremely hidden object or extremely concealed object. So some of the noble object like, for example, so in this life, and you have, if you, so, and the result kind of, there must be some kind of, result or wrapping the result in this life, the cause which has committed in the past life. So you can infer that because of the result that you experienced, the cause must have preceded. But to understand when, or which place, and so which nation are you at the time? These are the extreme hidden object, right? So it's for sure it's the reality, but there is no any logic that you have to reveal that. So unless you gain clairvoyance, unless you gain the highly, so when it determines, the Buddha and Bodhisattva has the quality of remembering thousands life. So very vividly they can see it, right? So unless you have this, and you have no logic to reveal that, you have no obvious any kind of subject to perceive those things. So obvious object, hidden object, and extremely hidden objects. So evident effects. That's why it's saying this. Although the sound is obvious object, when combined with impermanent, then it becomes the concealed object, right? So it precludes sound's impermanence being a concealed fact. Some others says that when the negation is paired, right, with the subject of propositions, the Brahman do not drink. Some other fact is implied. This too is incorrect. So Brahman, for example, is the basis upon which one consider whether some other fact is being implied, or it certainly cannot be, cannot be the other fact that is being implied. So which means the Brahman is the basis to consider, to examine, is he drinking alcohol or not alcohol? So he is not the basis for suggesting, right? So Brahman does not drink alcohol. That line is non-affirmative negations. There is no further suggestions. Although that Brahman does not drink alcohol is combined with the affirmative phenomena, but it's not suggesting any affirmative things. The Brahman is the one, the basis to examine, not the suggestion, right? So I think because of this, the detailed kind of, the proper understanding of negation and affirmative negation, non-affirmative negations, And when you follow the Nagarjuna's text, when you try to understand Heart Sutra, so there's always possible to go on wrong interpretations, saying, oh, Buddha says there's no tongue, no nose, no tongue, right? Shariputra, so which means maybe in the reality, maybe there's no tongue, there's no nose. And then why we say, right, I have a tongue, I have a nose, I have an eye. So maybe that existing is a wrong perception in the conventional reality. Conventional reality means is the wrong perception for them. So conventional reality is the wrong perception, which means, right, unreal means to them is not exist. So the Prasangika school says unreal does not mean not exist. Unreal means it exists. So unreal, lie, deceptive. So these are, conventional reality. Because of the unreal, because of the lie, because of the deceptive, there is the possible of, generating the right thought and unmistaken consciousness. So cannot be affected by those lie and the deceptive phenomena. So, but we are, sentient beings, the ordinary sentient beings, constantly deceived by this unreal conventional reality. So the sentient beings not deceived, or sentient beings not harmed by non-existing. Rabbit horn cannot poke sentient being's stomach, right? So something it has a function, right? Because of this conventional reality, and we distract, and because of the conventional reality, we are fixated. Because of the conventional reality, and we see something that is objectivities, that really drives the sentient being in the cycle existing, right? So which means the conventional is reality. So the reality is, which means reality in what context? Reality, your reflection of the face in the mirror is the reality. So that reflections, the mirror image, has any intrinsic quality or not, right? So the mirror image, if that has intrinsic quality, then it's just like you see the dog standing there, right? So dog can come to you by his own mind, with his own mind, and he can go back, or he can disappear, he can run, right? So it's the conventional realities. The mirror image cannot, it has do not have any dislike activities, but it cannot determine or decide or go somewhere or coming from somewhere, or mirror image has no kind of property of belonging to your face or belonging to the mirror itself. It's not the property of the mirror itself. It's not the property of the face. It just simply arises from the contact of the face and the mirror. But it is the reality. There's something you can see. It has function. Like some animals, when they see the glass, they see themselves and they just bark, right? So it means they got deceived by the mirror image. So similar, the sentient beings constantly deceived by this, conventional reality, like the mirror image, like conventional reality. So we cry, we excited, we praise, we and we call what is the opposite of the praise?
Criticize.
Criticize. So all of them, without your projections, there's nothing to see from your mind to criticize, to praise. So all of this conventional reality that exists, like a mirror image. So it is the reality, it has functions, it can deceive you, you can make your mind not being able to deceive by those conventional reality, like a human being using the mirror image, they don't get deceived. So the animal, they constant deceived, right? So the Prasangika school says, never by negating the objectivity or the intrinsic quality, we never come to annihilating the conventional reality. So accepting, finding the existing of the conventional reality, and it very, in the sense that it just relatively exists, like a mirror image, like a mirage, like a rainbow, right? So I think that's the very most difficult part, point in the Prasangika school, and keeping the balance, not annihilating the conventional reality, at the same time negating intrinsic qualities. So, thus, to present the noble Arjunas the four propositions, Chandrakirti writes, not originate from itself, and how from something else, something others, not from both, not from no cause, not originating from itself, namely from its own essence. How can the effect originate from others? So the other causes that exist as other true intrinsic characteristics. It does not originate from both self and others, and how from no cause. So it does not, now where there are things that possess the intrinsic existence, this would entail that they arises by one of the four possibilities, either by itself or others, both or no cause. Within the notion of intrinsic arising, there are only two possibilities: from a cause, from no cause. So, and when the possibility of arising from a cause, there are only three possibilities: arising from itself, right, or others, from combination of both self and others. Therefore, these four positions are exhaustive.
Like complete.
Yeah. So for example, its sprout arises from cause or no cause. So if the sprout arising from cause, so it arises from itself or other or both. So which means sprout is arising from the cause, but not arising by itself, not arising from others, not arising from both, which means here it's, so this, so this arising is the basis to the arising of the sprout is arising, the sprout arising from the cause is the basis to the, considering or the analyzing. And what is analyzing is it arises from itself or both or from others. By negating that, and what you find is simply non-affirmative negations. Sprout is not arising from itself, not arising from other, not arising from both. So by negating that, what you found relatively, so means now, what is the basis of the relatively creating the sprout can arise from the cause? So, today is a Sunday. Sunday is the fact, or it is one of the factors that can, from there you can draw the Saturday has passed. So the past of the Saturday cannot be established or cannot be exist by its own nature or by the Saturday itself, because the Saturday has already passed, right? So now the past of the Saturday is proving existing from the Sunday, right? So that is the kind of, it's a, this what it's saying is a relative. How is the relatively existing, right? From the Sunday, and knowing Sunday is, passing, right? With hours, right? Some hours has already passed, some hours yet to come. So that from this is reflects the Monday is coming. So that the coming of the Monday is relatively existing, but depending upon disintegration of the Sunday. So that's how it's relatively existing. So in similar, a recent sprout that you can see with your eye, the sprout that manifests. And from there, you can say, this must be coming from the seed that I have planted last month or 2 months before. So the arising of the sprout is understood or known to be existing by depending upon what you see in the present as a sprout. So here the Prasanga goes, this is how the things that exist, but by itself is not real. It is become real by depending on something else. Coming of the Monday is not proven by the Monday itself, or there is no such thing as the futures that existing already exists and it coming towards you. So the coming of this Monday is existing purely depending upon knowing the Sunday is disintegrating. So that's how the conventional reality is. Relatively existing is like that, right? So Prasangic school. So this proves if the coming of the Monday is existing purely depending upon knowing that Sunday is disintegrating, which means now you have accepted the coming of the Monday exists, it's real. And you also understood the coming of the Monday is not done by the Monday itself, or there is something as the futures that already exist coming towards you, right? So is negate intrinsic quality and accepting that existing that's purely relying on something else. So I think this is how you say, from the kind of pointing, understanding one individual and knowing he has grandmother and grandmothers, and 100 grandmothers, right? So it's, because of this person has born, now he is here. So he must have born from the mother. Mother has born from the mother. That mother is born from another mother's. So no mother born from egg, no mother born from trees, right? No mother born from the soils, except in Ramayana, the Sita is born from the underground. So you see, so it's that existing of the continuing or the grandmother 100 times relatively exist, right? This whole not proven by each grandmothers. So that's going to, unrail, but it railed in the context of the, context of the relation of context and the relation is the same, right? In the context, the coming of this Monday is existing in the context of understanding Sunday is disintegrating, right? So that's the coming of the Monday. You cannot just open the door and say, "Oh, where is Monday? Is it closed?" So how many miles away from me today? So there's nothing, right? But it's known to be existing by reflecting on today is just simply disintegrating. So Prasanga school things, that's the main point. I think that's the really kind of, most essential, the knowledge in the Prasanga school. Everything is existing like that. So the present of the today, present of the Sunday is also not objective, right? So I can see the present Sunday because I have already constructed the present hour, present minute. So I made up in my mind, there's the durations. Therefore, I can find the Sunday is existing particular durations that I have measured, right? So you have a, tape. So with tape, you can understand how tall things are. So you have already tape measurement of the minute and hour, right? And the hour and the days and the month and the year. So with that measurement, so those measurements are conceptually projected, fabricated, the abstract, and with that you are measuring kind of Sunday is present. So what time is it? Is it 5?
Right time.
3:40.
Oh, okay. So this is all the automatically change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I thought I didn't change this. So that's kind of, the logical proof that establish this absence of intrinsic arising through reasoning. This has 4 parts: refuting the self-arising, refuting arising from others, refuting arising from both self and others, refuting arising from no cause. The refuting self-arising, this has 2 parts: refuting the self-arising through the commentary author's reasoning, and refuting the self arising through the fundamental wisdoms. So there's Nagarjuna's, the kind of, how is it, So Nagarjuna's the kind of the reasoning why things do not arise by itself. So Nagarjuna says, if things exist by itself, so if things exist by itself, and then cause and effect become the same, right? Because the sprout is arising by itself. So the arisen sprout is already sprout before it's been kind of, before it has been arisen. Because, the future sprout, arising of the sprout, so they think the future sprout is the sprout. So now that sprout is once more become kind of is manifest or being seen or witnessed by the eye consciousness. And then so how the worldly accept is arisen. Before it's already kind of exists as a sprout. So Nagarjuna says that if the things do exist by itself, and by itself is the cause, by itself is the effect, because it's born from itself. And then cause and effect becomes identical, and then the doer and the doing is also identical, agent and actions. So the Chandrakirti, and he added his own reasonings. So this is the commentary author's reasonings. I think this, there's a lot of story in this, why the non-Buddhist school, particularly the Samkhya school, and they asserting things do exist by their own essence or arises from itself. So the Samkhya school and many of the non-Buddhist school, I think because of they have so much kind of clinging to the creators, the Shiva, right? The Shiva, who is the origin of all kind of material and non-material things. So the Shiva, the nature of the Shiva is with everything. So in the fact, everything is in the nature of Shiva. So you, me, table, everything that is ultimately in the nature of Shiva. Right? So I think, and sometimes they call it the Bhagavan or the Shiva or Ishvara, and sometimes they use nature, Prakriti. So the nature is if you trace it, the origin of that language is because it's created by the one mighty being. So it arises from him and all dissolve back to him. So, so if you are saying something to me, or wrong, or the right, or positive, or negative, and then if I practice, if I follow the, believe in my dharma and practicing, I should consider Shiva is talking to me, right? He's saying back to me, bad to me, or he is praising me. So I think that's one of the kind of, one of the interesting and very beneficial practice in the positively. Right? If someone yelling at you, so now Shiva is very angry, so she's yelling at me. So, so that's what, this, and They're seriously the practitioner of the non-Buddhists, the Shambhos, Shiv Shambho, Shiv. And so it's kind of, so yeah, in the colleague in the village, I have one Indian kind of friend. So every morning, every night, and then he kind of just after lunch or the breakfast, oh Shiva 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 Shiva. So going back in sleep, and he was Shiva Shiva. Morning, wake up Shiva Shiva, and so when he is hungry, he's not remembering Shiva. So when he so like this, what they believe is sometimes they are not sure, but what is the nature, what is the kind of Bhagavan itself. And sometimes they're referring to the natures, like elements. Right? They create each element in the form of deity. The fire deities and wind, the deity of the wind, the deity of the earth. So they imagine that deity of the earth, soil, is like in a female form. She gives birth, like crops and insects and all this, right? So that's when the Agni Dev, Vayu Dev, Varun Dev. So I think they're wanting to know, right? There must be some kind of source, the origin, who is continuously making us. So, and there's no way to realize that, and then they create. Oh, maybe this is the fire deities, fire god, fire lord. This is the wind lord, or something like that. So I think that's this is one of the non-Buddhist Samkhya school. Samkhya school divided into two: one reject the creator, one accept the creator. So the Samkhya school who accept the creators means ultimately everything is one nature. Cause, effect, seed, sprout is the one nature. Right. So here they're saying, the Chandrakirti is, if you think the seed and the sprout is the one nature, so intrinsically they are one nature, means they are intrinsically they are one. It's identical. So if the seed and sprout is identical by natures, why do we see the size, difference in the size, different in the taste, different in the shapes? So there is no possible of perceiving, experiencing there's some difference, right? So if things, seed and sprout, are identical, so there shouldn't be any difference, right, in terms of size and the color and the taste. And then this is, he also mentioned the Guru Ramans. In the old time in India, some of the Brahmin, very rich Brahmin family, there is a tree we call it's very sour. So it's usually used for the medicine. Very sour, very round, the small, and it's also good for the throat. So the very rich Brahmin family, instead of watering them, they put the milk to the tree. So then the fruit comes very sweet. But the nature of the sweet is sour because they put the milk every day, so that affecting on the tree, and then the fruit becomes sweet. So Chandrakirti says, maybe these are not really possible, changing the taste, if they are all same by nature. Right? So, so it's all, because of the each kind of, corporate conditions plays a role to bring the changes in the things. So, which means it is not done by one single cause, which is you're referring as the Shiva or the Prakriti. Right? If they all done by one single cause, and there shouldn't be any difference. There is no difference in the taste, there's difference in the size and the colors.
Do Vedics have an answer for that? If you say that to them, do they have any kind of argument that kind of rejecting that? Oh, it's still from the single cause, even though, I mean, do they reject what do you call them? I mean, multiple causes and conditions, cooperative causes and conditions altogether? Do they have any comeback to that argument?
So I think they kind of, there's within the Samkhya school, because of the argument that we, Nagarjunas and Chandrakirtis, and then the mini masters, they kind of, layouts, the reasoning to negating, reject that things, and they change it a little bit. This is, your understanding the seed and sprout is not in one nature. Means maybe I accept the arisen sprout and the seed has proceeded. Right? Maybe they are not same in the size and the colors, but ultimately, so they all come from one nature. Again, going back to that. So there's all coming from one source, one energy, one single cause. So with that, so we say is, we see the different expressions, but it's all, derived from one single kind of mighty nature. So if you continuously, there's a story during the Dharmakirti. Dharmakirti, he started writing on the valent cognitions. So there's something that he have already understood, he acknowledged it. Now he start writing. And then every time he writes in the slate, right, first he praises to the Buddha. And then he pledging that I'm going to finish this book. And then whenever he goes out for and then someone comes in his cave and erase that. So, so every time he said, and he thought, first he was someone just playing or some kind of, out of ignorance they do things. And several times, and then he, right after that, he says, if someone has doubt and want to argue and stay, I will come back. So then there's one non-Buddhist school master staying in his cave, and then he come back and debate with him. He got very angry. He couldn't say anything. He got angry. He, and magical power, used the magical power, create the fire from his mouth and burn the Dharmakirti's robe. And Dharmakirti, at that time, Dharmakirti was kind of very disappointed. So I always wishing to lead every sentient, free all sentient beings from the misery or the misconceptions. So I cannot tempt one person. so he, the Dharmakirti thought that maybe I'll just give up bodhicitta. So I just try to attain the liberations for myself. That's in his mind. So then he kind of write the slave that he is writing the text, and he threw in the sky, and then that sled didn't really fall back. You just look up, and Manjushri is there. So Manjushri is holding his book, and Manjushri said, "Don't give up the Bodhisattva. So that the book that you're writing will be I for many sentient beings." So yeah, Dharmakirti is a valid cognitions. Is very kind of practice Nalandas and many others still. So yeah, so when they get defeated, and because say they couldn't dispute back and the Chandrakirti's point of view, and then they get angry. They just some may spell, right? Some may spell, or some may say bad things to you, right? So and then also some of the followers, those Samkhya schools and the what do you call it? Sanskrit name, Charaba, yeah, and those many of those after having years and years debate and so like in the later on the Ramakrishnas, Swami Vivekanandas, the many followers, so they accept Nagarjuna's point of views. Still, they are understanding it like more like mind-only school. So they don't want to give up Tantrayana practice, the deity yogas. So they combine. So they think this is Nagarjuna's point of view. So I think Ramakrishna in India and his teacher, so who teach him the emptiness, his teachers is not really accepting Tantrayana practice. His teacher many times told him, this is just rubbish, this nonsense. The deity yogas is it's just illusion things. Then now Ramakrishna keep holding the deity yogas, and he kind of follows his teachings about emptiness. Then he, in his book, he said, so the right way to follow the kind of right way to follow the Bhagavan is like you're standing on the, what called doorsteps. You don't go out, you don't go in. So you can't, which means don't fall in the conventional, don't just kind of jump into the emptiness. So you just look both sides is the Yogacharya practice. Right? Don't fall on one side. So that's the Ramakrishna, and that followed by the Swami Vivekanandas. So because of the Ramakrishna, from his very young age, he has always, the vision of the Mahakali. So Mahakali often appears to him. So like when he go to school or he go to find the new kind of, new path, a new job, and once he become the minister of the king, the main advisor. So this also predict advice by the Mahakali. So he has attached to the deities. So he find this is the middle ways. His middle ways. Don't too much fall in the conventional reality. Don't too much dive into the emptiness. So stay in the middle, right? Don't go out, don't go in. Just standing at the door. Yeah, this has changed a lot of, and many non-Buddhist school followers. They change. So when they explained emptiness, there's a self, is no things, is not a nothing. So So this is exactly Lama Tsongkapha from the beginning is refuting that. So some may say it's a no thing, it's not a nothing. So it's exactly the same. The no thing and nothing is same. So yeah, many non-Buddhist schools, they are very intelligent, right? They change and when they convince with certain logic, and they change their. So I think this Upasta, something like I forgot the exact name. So this very letter, so which means right now what they call is I forgot the name. Yeah, we call Rijethaba Avidenta. So Avidenta is a very, very kind of, late. So the follower of the Avidentas is they don't really accept the kind of, literally what it says in Gita and the Bhagavad. So they accept this is some for the ordinary people who has no knowledge, for them to turn into kind of letting them faith in the Bhagavan. So just like kindergarten, the bedtime stories to make them comfortable. So not exact the ultimate meaning. So yeah. So there's changed a lot after that. Yeah. Any questions? Because their idea, I think that the Bhagavan is so, it's not really always, it's not easy for them because sometimes the Bhagavan is like the being, the person. Sometimes the Bhagavan is the very kind of, the very origin of the elements and the functional things. So they just like it's like maybe that, maybe this. So it's not sure. So Bhagavan is a person or it is the nature.
So what is the meaning of Bhagavan?
Bhagavan, I think the name, the sound Bhagavan means is the perfect object to worship and perfect field for the perfect field of accumulation of the merit. Sometimes we call Sonam Yishins. And in the Bhagavan, in the Tibetan, it changed the meaning, whole meaning. So Tibetan, sometimes we say Gunsho, Sanje, Sonam Yishin. So there's a lot, So Gunsho means the supreme among the rare. So sometimes it's like that. And sometimes it's perfect fill for the merit. Right. So Bhagavan is more like that. Bhagavan. So Bhagavan and the Bhagavan. The Bhagavan means very fortunate one. So like in all time now, maybe this new generation, I don't use much of these terms. In all time, the old time, 80s, the village, they all refer to their mother of the house as the Bhagavan. She is the one who holds all family. She is the source of this, right? So the Bhagavan. When the father calls Hare Bhagavan, means right.
Does that suggest a loss of recognition of how things work? And what's important by the fact that they no longer retain this, I mean, it's a kind of knowledge after all.
Yeah. So because this is all rooted in this deep culture and the traditions, so that's why each language has, kind of, when you dig up the meaning, and there are some messages, some knowledges there. Maybe people who use that term language, not necessarily they understand what does that mean, the actual definition of it. But it feels like praising or kind of appreciating, being grateful, right? To show respect to the mother of the house is the Bhagavan. So Bhagavan and the Bhagavan. Bhagya is always the merit, fortune, Bhagya. So that's why my teacher always said the Sanskrit words are, so one single word, if you try to interpret, there's not much meaning. So Sanskrit, the words are like mathematical, it's number. It has to be joined in another number, and then it shows some kind of meaning. So, but single word, it can be interpreted like a Buddha. So it has not much meaning by itself. So when it refers to the Shakyamuni, and then it says something.
So that suggests that Tibetan is a much more rich language, with which conveys a lot more subtle meanings than just Sanskrit. Is that correct?
I don't think so. Yeah, because the Tibetan is trying to make it easier. So they want, what has multiplied. They want to know. They don't want to go around the numbers. So it seems like Indians are more intelligent. So from the number they can tell what has divided, what has multiplied. So it's like, in India, they only look, they collect the parts and they can make something. So we Tibetan, we need ready-made. so we are more lazier. So so they're all these great translators. They have to make it, more easier to how to say it? To understand. So sangye. So from the two syllables, it make easier to understand. There's no wrong interpretations. Pratika Buddha, Buddha. So Pratika Buddha means by becoming awakened by oneself. Right? And the Buddha means just awakening, or kind of a bloom, or So become or kind of complete there's some kind of complete result due to many the cultivation, the cause, the conditions, and you become something. And Buddha also used to the flower that blooms, that completely fully blooms. That's also Buddha, right? And then exactly the kind of the term, the Buddha. And historically, it is like the Buddha, the word is used in a small village. So they use that language or term or to refer to someone who is highly knowledgeable, who has all answers, right? So they're the village that uses. So the girl, and she was the one who's referring to Buddhas. So is it okay that I'm calling you the Buddha? Because this is how our village, my village, they use this the Buddha to highly knowledgeable. So when she kind of uttered the word Buddha, and then from the space, just kind of continuously kind of what called repeating that words, mimicking that words in space, Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. So that become the the name of the Buddha. So maybe those kind of the worldly God, so they hear that and they delighted by calling him a Buddha. So and then follower of the Buddhas like the Anandas, Shariputra, Mongolputra. So I think at that time those monks, the bhikshus, they always refer to Buddha Tathagat. Right. Yeah, so that does not proving Tibetans more intelligent than India. I don't think so. Tibetans still, from the culture, it's not really proving much intelligent person. So if they give the kind of if there's the options, which one are you following, the reasoning or logic, or you're following your guru? People say, "Oh, we follow guru, not reasoning." Yeah, so, yeah, but those very very kind and very great kind of those king and the ministers and the great translators at the time. So they all kind of I'm not sure of this because of the blessing of the Avalokiteshvara. So they agree that all the ministers, the kings, and the great scholars, they all kind of put a lot of effort to bringing the Buddha Dharma in Tibet. So that is, I think, way. That's why we have the rich culture and the traditions. It's not because of the Tibetans are very intelligent; they understand everything. So leaders and the great masters there, yeah. Yeah, okay. Chanchu simja rinpoche, ma jeba na jeju, jeba nyamba mewa ya, kone pewa. Tonye tawa rinpoche, ma jeba na jeju, jeba nyamba mewa ya, kone pewa. Pama simja tamja, deda denju, ngenjo tamja dada ton, chanchu simba, kama sushu be, deda goji, mono jubju ruji, kare rabe gobe, shinga su, penda dewa ma du juwe. Chere sewa, tinzen jansu ji, shabe, side badu denju ruji.
May the precious holy mind not yet born arise. May the born have no decline but increase forevermore. May the precious mind realizing emptiness not yet born arise and grow. May the born have no decline but increase forevermore. Due to all these merits, may all father and mother sentient beings have all happiness. May all lower realms be empty forever. Wherever there are Bodhisattvas, may all their prayers be accomplished immediately. In the sacred land surrounded by snow mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. More powerful, Chandrakirti and Zenjutsu, remain in this world until some ends.
Thank you very much.